Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. This is my last Master Replicas lightsaber review. If you look at my playlist, you'll see that I've reviewed every other unique Master Replicas hilt. I'm doing this on my new iPhone 15 Pro Max, 4K, 60 frames a second. It's gonna be a massive file to both upload and to process. So I don't know, you tell me whether it's even worth it or not, or whether just go back to 1080p. I think I'm gonna go 4K 60 for some of my statue reviews, where like the details I think really pop, especially like some of the Predator stuff where the paint job is so amazing. But for like a lightsaber, I don't really know whether the extra fidelity is necessary. But again, you let me know. And I also have to kind of fiddle around a little bit with the zoom, because at least with the other 4K 60 I did, it had a hard time, I think, like focusing on really close-up details. Let's talk about this as I'm rotating him around. So this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. It has a little bit of an interesting history, and this is of course a little bit special. We'll get to that in a second. But essentially, if you want to, let's start with the lore, right? So in terms of the lore of this lightsaber, obviously at the end of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi was fighting Darth Maul, and he lost his lightsaber when he got essentially knocked into the pit, and then he force leaped over Maul, and I think used Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber to cut Maul in half. And so the idea then behind this hilt is that he recreated the lightsaber he lost from Episode 1, and he rebuilt it and in almost identical fashion. Now remember that between Episode 1 and Episode 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi had graduated into a Jedi Knight. And by the events of Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, I mean, Anakin Skywalker had aged up, what, 7, 8, I mean, I don't know the lore, but at least 8, if not 10 years. I mean, he obviously gone from a boy to like a young man, right, as a Padawan. So, I mean, I don't know how to feel about that. It's kind of weird. Like, you're telling me that Obi-Wan lost his lightsaber, then built one essentially identical to the first one and kept it for almost a decade. Okay, I mean, I guess if that's the way the lore is, I just find that a little bit, I guess, boring in my opinion. Because then in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan had become a master and was on the council, he then of course built his own lightsaber and basically built a completely new one, and one that recalled or made you think of a lot more the hilt he had from Star Wars: A New Hope. And this is often what happens. A Padawan often builds his lightsaber, and it is meant to almost be a homage to his master's lightsaber. There are certain similarities in the design between the two. And as you can see from my Phantom Menace Obi-Wan Kenobi review, and if you were just to compare that with the Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber, you will see elements ofQui's hilt in Obi-Wan's hilt. So there's definitely a part of that. But then you would think that when the Padawan becomes a full Jedi Knight, remember that once you become a Jedi Knight, you're no longer Padawan. You don't really have the same relationship now with your master. I mean, there will always be that mutual love and respect, but you're expected to kind of be your own person now, right? You're a Jedi Knight. And so it's not like ridiculous at that point, I would think, for a Jedi to craft another lightsaber that has more individuality, certainly. And if you go from a knight to a master, I would think that definitely the expectation would be to craft your own lightsaber, especially with the added the sort of the added special angle or the added unique design that masters are the only Jedi rank that can use Electrum, right? And incorporate Electrum into their lightsaber designs, just like Mace Windu did, and Obi-Wan Kenobi has some Electrum as well. In fact, all of the masters had Electrum in their hilts, I think, as from the Master Replicas releases, except for Yoda, of course, who's a Grand Master. So for me to believe that Obi-Wan would keep his Padawan hilt for essentially his entire tenure as a Jedi Knight, up to finally when he became a master, is kind of hard to believe, unless, again, maybe this was just to indirectly honor Qui-Gon Jinn, whose death must have been pretty darn traumatic for Obi-Wan. But even then, you're honoring him. It's kind of a weird way to honor him, because it's not like your lightsaber hilt is like a copy of Qui-Gon's, right? It's like your Padawan hilt that you had when you were with Qui-Gon Jinn, and it has some elements of it, but that you're going to keep that. So anyways, that's kind of like my rambling commentary on the lore reason for why the Attack of the Clones Obi-Wan lightsaber hilt is essentially almost always identical to the Phantom Menace hilt. Now, there are some very, very subtle changes, maybe even from the design department. Maybe it was just a simple matter of convenience, but I'll point that out. The certificate of authenticity also points that out as well. So that's number one. Another thing about this lightsaber that's pretty unique in a sense, or not unique, but it's interesting, is that they sold it without the display case and the base, which means that this is sort of like a generic, Master Replicas base and acrylic case. This is actually basically identical to the display case you would have for the Star Wars A New Hope Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. All of the earlier Master Replicas bases, as you can see, are smaller, and the case goes, inside the boundaries of the base. Later on, they made it a little bit larger, and they created a lip around the outside of the base so that the acrylic case can be larger and then go around it. In addition, the height is quite a bit less. And so this is definitely like an older style, Master Replica design from when they first started releasing product in 2002, 2003, and you bought it separately. So you will see a lot of these Attack of the Clones Obi-Wan Kenobi hilts that's just basically in the box with the certificate of authenticity, but it does not have the base or the acrylic case. And that does make, it doesn't make a difference, obviously. It kind of splits it up a little bit. So that is another thing that is unique about this. So now what I'm going to do, another thing is, before I go on, this is the actual belt clip that comes with the lightsaber hilt. This is the only release, to the best of my knowledge, from Master Replicas, the only one that actually also came with a belt clip, which the cover tech actually slides into. The cover tech is on all of the prequel lightsabers, even dating back to Darth Maul. But none of those hilts came with the actual belt clip itself. This is the only lightsaber that came with the belt clip, which I have slightly mixed feelings about. I guess it's cool to have that, but at the same time, it sort of plays up the aspect of these hilts as toys. And I don't know why Master Replicas did that. I think maybe back in those days, they were still sort of experimenting with their marketing, experimenting with what worked, what didn't work. And maybe they were halfway between. They thought that maybe it would appeal more to buyers if it was more functional. The inclusion of this belt clip in a sense, almost encourages you to cosplay, encourages you to use this lightsaber as part of a costume, which I don't really love the idea of that. And I think that some people did do that because of the inclusion of that belt clip. And they probably, wore this hilt to conventions. And quite a few of these then were probably damaged or scratched due to their inappropriate use. I prefer to see these hilts as essentially works of art, and that should be displayed and not essentially worn as cosplay accessories. There's plenty of cheaper alternatives and harder alternatives for that. And while this is definitely not one of the most sought after hilts, they did make 2,500 of them. It is still technically like a limited edition, and I believe, should be displayed as such. Okay, so enough of that. Let's actually now take this acrylic case off. We'll put it aside. And now that you have it off, we're going to take the opportunity to put our black background, as usual, behind it, so you can get to see it in a bit more loving detail. Seeing as this is a exact or near exact copy of the Phantom Menace version, this is basically, it provides a very good opportunity for people who are not able to get the elite edition of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from Phantom Menace. You basically get the identical version, except the material is a little bit shoddier. It's not as high class as the stainless steel version of the elite. And it's a bit cheaper. I got this for about $900 and shipping from the UK. And you're often able to get, something in the neighborhood of that much, whether it's 700 to 800 to 900 or 1,000. Be aware that many of these lightsabers will come without this display case or base. It'll come in other custom display bases and cases because a lot of people, again, opted out of buying this one at the time, which I can't blame them for. This is not a very impressive base, and probably a lot of people later on upgraded their displays to something a little bit nicer, a little bit neater. So be aware of that. But also understand that technically speaking, the correct historic base and case is what you're seeing in this video. I mean, that's what you were meant to basically buy along with this lightsaber hilt. Okay, so again, just sort of rotating this around. Keep in mind that this is 4K level, so you're seeing a lot of the detail, all the little dust particles, everything like that. So you get an opportunity to see this from all the different angles before I actually begin to take it up. And again, in almost all respects, identical to the Phantom Menace Elite Edition version. So hopefully you are getting an opportunity to see that. And then we'll go through all the different components like I usually do and go from there. It's in pretty good shape, pretty good quality. Okay, let's move this back a little bit now. Now, the guy who actually sold this to me, he packed it all the way from the UK, and he had the original, like felt box for the lightsaber, but he didn't have the brown shippers, and he obviously didn't keep the brown shipper for the base and the display case, which is just a generic box. So he had to actually craft a box that was going to protect the hilt, which is easily done, but much more challenging. He had to figure out a way to pack the base and the acrylic case without it being damaged. And he did an amazing job of that, which is why it's kind of shocking that he did such a horrible job protecting the certificate of authenticity, which was just sort of haphazardly shoved in the box. And obviously from the movement of the box, it kind of messed it up. But be that as it may, you have to take the hits. This is the Master Replicas envelope. You can see because of the beige envelope that this is definitely one of the earlier releases. Well, we're gonna take everything out. You can see that here you have your normal limited warranty, right? That comes along with these guys. And then it comes with this brochure. You know, one of the funny things is that in all the times that I've reviewed all of these Master Replicas lightsabers, I've never seen another product catalog other than this. So it's kind of crazy. Well, I think I did. I guess in 2006, there was another catalog. But it's kind of weird that they only had essentially 2 catalogs, you know. One for the very, very old ones, 2002, 2003, and then another one, I think, for like 2005, 2006. So I've shown this before multiple times, so you can take a look at that. I mean, how the heck did the signature edition of Darth Vader from A New Hope, which is limited to 1,000 worldwide, that's a lot of them. I mean, that thing got sold out at $600, was already sold out back in 2002. Before they even printed out this catalog, it had already been sold out, which is just, you know, insane, actually. So anyways, there you go. Let's now take a look at the actual certificate authenticity. So it's a little bit bent here, but you have, of course, the Star Wars official prop replicas in gold emboss. I like that. This is very nice as well. This is not a signature edition, so the paper is definitely not as nice. In fact, it's very odd, but the plaque, which we essentially affixed to this acrylic stand. So this plaque actually was placed right here in the certificate of authenticity, if you can believe that. And this whole thing, because they created this little area to put the plaque on, you can actually open it all the way up into this sort of weird, I don't know, big piece of, big not cardboard, but big sheet, and you fold it into fourths. So this is like a really unique certificate of authenticity for me, at least. Probably because I don't collect very many non-signature, non-elite versions. I only buy the limited edition if that's all that's available. But honestly, I've never seen it quite like this, because as you may remember, the later certificates of authenticity for the 2006s, 2006 pieces had moved away from this style. As you can see, this is also a place where you can move this in and out. So it's placed in there. Like all of these guys are placed in these little holders, both the actual certificate of authenticity, as well as, the little blurb about the making of this lightsaber, and the actual plaque as well. So just an odd design choice. Let's take a look here at the certificate of authenticity. You can read this by yourself. I don't think this is kind of gold here. Let me just zoom up here. So it is gold, but not the nice type of gold seal that the signature editions have. We have Mr. Rothman and Vogel's signature, which is appreciated, but still not quite as classy as you can imagine as the signature editions. And they don't actually refer to Obi-Wan specifically, as they did for some of the older SCs. So this is more of a generic certificate, okay? And again, a little bit disappointing that just like this little paper shoved in these little brackets. Here actually is the blurb. You have a picture of this. A Jedi saber is his most precious possession. This is what he tells Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Attack of the Clones, which sort of explains why Anakin was so upset when he lost it at the end of Attack of the Clones. So I'm trying to figure out how to best focus this. It's a little bit difficult. I think this might be the best I can do. Still trying to work with this phone to get the best quality. So here we go. I'm going to move this up so you can actually read it. You can pause at any time so you can read it yourself. So they talks about the different, the variations between this one and the Elite Edition. What I don't understand is how the first paragraph, they're saying that designs for each of the lightsaber props were created by the design group led by Doug Chan and then submitted to George Lucas. And then like Ewan McGregor chose the lightsaber design for his character in episode 1 from those that were presented to him. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that makes sense. So they did this all the way back in episode 1. I mean, I don't know why they talked about that in the lightsaber from episode 2, which is kind of weird, right? It's like the lightsaber for Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars episode 2 is an interesting example of the development process of movie prop replicas. And then they talk about how he chose this exact hilt for episode 1. So I'm a little bit befuddled by that, but okay, whatever. Fair enough. Let's put away this certificate of authenticity back in its envelope. Let's put that aside. Let's take a look at the plaque that comes with this hilt. It says Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan Kenobi, lightsaber, limited edition 288 out of 2,500 with the Master Replicas and Lucasfilm logos. You can see the sticker, very, very adhesive, attached to the acrylic. So that's very nice. We're gonna put that aside. And then of course, what really sets off this hilt, this is one of my custom Ewan McGregor signature edition plaques. Remember I made a small video showing all 3 of them. So you can see here, this is Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber with Mr. McGregor's signature. And this is again from SWAU, authorized, authenticated. And having a signature display plaque like this, I think is so important for a hilt like this, where really there's not a whole lot to distinguish it, from the episode 1 version. The episode 1 version is basically superior to this in almost every way in terms of limitation, materials, legacy, etc. So to have like a signature plaque, I think, alongside the limitation plaque, just really, I think, adds a whole lot more to the actual hilt itself. So, that's actually pretty important. Let's take a look here at the belt clip. There's not much to it. This is made out of plastic, and the CoverTech clip snaps in here. And then of course, this is the actual belt clip that you put over the belt, and then you release it by pressing this, and that's it. The only time a belt clip was ever created for the lightsaber. Okay, so now that we're to it, let's take a look at this hilt in a little bit more detail. As you can always see, each of these hilts, you're always surprised by just how heavy it is. There's like that tactile sensation, which unfortunately you can never really appropriately convey on a YouTube video, but again, it's very pleasingly solid. It feels really nice and heavy. I'm going to be getting the Ahsoka Tano dual lightsabers from EFX in January, supposedly. And I don't know, I just really hope that that hilt has the same type of sturdy feel that all of these hilts do. With the exception of the EFX Maul version, which was essentially almost all resin, the Luke reveal, the Ahsoka, hilt, the Dave Filoni Clone Wars version, as well as the Dark Ray lightsaber, which I haven't reviewed yet, they've all felt extremely solid, extremely heavy. And of course, all the Master Replicas ones feels like that. So I hope that that doesn't disappoint. It is going to be predominantly die cast. So for what that's worth, I hope the quality is still there. Okay, so let's just start with the pommels. So here is the pommel right here. And you can see on the side, Master Replicas, LLC, and then Lucasfilm Ltd. All right, let's try to go double magnification. See, it's not very clear when I do that. So I think we just have to kind of, this could be, again, a limitation of the 4K medium, maybe in terms of its ability to focus. So if you want to have the 4K quality, then you can't go all the way as close up. But I think this is close enough. So again, you can see that supposedly these parts of the pommel are more triangular. I'll have to do a review with the Elite Edition and the Attack of the Clones side by side to really look at them. But I don't know if I can really appreciate that. For sure, the Elite Edition had holes through the center of these. And so this version does not, they're solid, okay? I don't know whether this is more triangular or more trapezoidal is the correct term than the square, than the square ones of the Elite Edition. Moving along here, you can see the knob, all the black. This is very, very nice aluminum and with chrome. And then here you can see the CoverTech clip that's meant to go on the, on the belt clip itself. And then here is the ribbing of the handle that is a little bit reminiscent of the Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber hilt, which we just reviewed. Obviously, it's not completely identical. Qui-Gon's is a lot deeper. Like we discussed, it's almost like a domino effect. But this kind of black ribbing, within the chrome sheath is very reminiscent of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber. You can absolutely believe when you're looking at the handle here as well as the pattern here, you can actually definitely see, Qui-Gon's saber in Obi-Wan's. This was the little bicycle, attachment that was used in the Elite Edition. And you can see here that, rather than an actual bicycle pressure valve, they just completely, re-engineered it. So it's a lot more smooth. And you can tell that this was actually made for scratch for this lightsaber. So that's another one of the differences. One of the biggest differences, actually. The red button with the knurling here is the same. And then here you can see that this is all chrome. There's no glass or crystal at all, whereas in the Elite Edition, there were white crystals here. So that's another difference. And then finally, here is the actual emitter. This is the business end, so to speak, of the lightsaber. It's like a mirror sheen polish. You can see it reflecting my neck and my phone, so that's pretty cool. So the three major differences, this one right here, the crystal, and then the knobs on the pommel. The lack of a hole, the subtle change. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Those are the only differences, ridiculously subtle. In every other respect, this, lightsaber is the same essentially as the Phantom Menace version. In case you were wondering, the Phantom Menace version came out first, and it was actually pretty sought after. It was sold out pretty early. Again, Masters Replicas Society members managed to get their hands on one first. They were allowed, first choice of pre-order. So I think quite a few people did miss out. And I can imagine that this would be a very popular hilt because it's like a really, really pretty design. And so I think, Master Replicas was, between a rock and a hard place. Like a lot of people were complaining that they weren't able to get one. And so they probably decided at that point, okay, what the heck? We haven't made one for episode 2 yet. Let's just make one for episode 2. Let's just blow the lid off of the limitation, 2,500. Everybody who wants one can get one, basically. And then, they released it. So this is sort of like a little weird way to get around the limitation of the first version. I also find it a little bit odd, because for Luke Skywalker, remember, there's only been 3 Elite editions, right, of these hilts. And so it's the Obi-Wan from Phantom Menace, it's the Luke Skywalker from A New Hope, and it's the Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. And for both Luke Skywalker hilts, Star Wars: A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, they had a limited edition version of that Elite Edition, right? Only with the Obi-Wan Kenobi Elite Edition was there no other edition from that movie. In other words, the only way to get a Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from Phantom Menace was to buy the much more limited, much more expensive Elite Edition. What was Master Replicas thinking? I mean, I have absolutely no idea, but there it is. And so that's why there was kind of this, hullabaloo when it was sold out. And so I guess in a way, the Attack of the Clones Episode 2 Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber is almost like the limited edition version of that Elite Edition. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe that was like their plan all along because they knew that the Obi-Wan hilt from Attack of the Clones was essentially identical to the one from Phantom Menace. So they maybe was in their plans all along just to release an Elite Edition for Episode 1, and then the limited edition version of the Elite Edition they just basically made into Episode 2 because it was essentially the same hilt. It's the only instance, by the way, of the whole Master Replicas line where essentially you have the lightsaber from two different movies be identical in all the big ways, right? Like every other lightsaber, there are differences. The closest one where you're saying there isn't is the Luke Skywalker Star Wars: A New Hope lightsaber, where they have the Elite Edition, the Limited Edition, and the Signature Edition. But for everyone else, the sabers are different. I mean, there's reasons to buy them. This is the only one, aside from, again, the Elite Edition, Limited Edition, and Signature Edition of the New Hope lightsaber, where you're essentially buying the same hilt twice with these incredibly minute differences. So there you have it. I'm going to move this a little bit closer, and then I'm going to put it back into position. I tend to like to display it like this, if I can. Let's see, what's the best way of doing it? Oh, I see. The cover tech is preventing that from moving over. So yeah, I would say this is a nice way of doing it. Hold on a second. Maybe actually try another way. Yeah, do that. It's a little bit more centered, actually. And then let's have the signature plaque down here. We'll have the belt clip in the back. Right over here, we'll have the original limitation plaque over here. And then we'll put the acrylic display case over it, like so. And then we're gonna take the background off in time. Here is the certificate of authenticity. And then we'll give it one more whirl. So you can see it in all its glory. And so I do really believe, again, that having the signature plaque just makes this piece so much better and really accents the whole thing. And that's why I'm trying to do my best to get signatures for even the limited edition non-signature lightsabers, because having that signature plaque, especially made by Ariel, where he does such an amazing job recreating the brushed silver, the brushed aluminum look, not silver, but the brushed aluminum look, and the actual lettering, the fonts. It's just almost identical to the original signature plaques. And when you put it there, it just elevates the actual display so much. And I think you'll agree that you elevate it from sort of just a cheaper copy or a lesser copy of the Elite Edition, Phantom Menace Obi-Wan hilt, and you kind of elevate it to its own sort of majestic display. So there you go. My very last Master Replicas lightsaber review. I'm going to put up one more, number 29. And that one is not from Master Replicas. That's the latest release from EFX, the Dark Ray lightsaber. And we'll go a little bit more into that. But with that review, I will have actually reviewed every single lightsaber from EFX and Master Replicas, the high-end ones at least. So thanks for coming along with me on this journey. And we're going to finish that off with the next review. Then I will do a few more comparing various saber hilts. I have to decide which ones I want to bring out. That's going to take a lot of time because I have to kind of remove them from the original display area, take them out. So I did that before with the Luke Skywalker Star Wars A New Hope Elite Edition and Signature Edition, and I did one with the Vader. So I'll do a couple more of those after the individual reviews, but that'll come along quite a bit later because it does take a bit of effort to do that. So until next time, do take care.